Hi folks, this is being recorded live. So this is the overall Model G of ENFP. I'm going to explain things in a moment. Just for the, and I'm going to read through it all as well. I'm going to try and do this as quickly as possible, just explaining what is on screen, rather than going into something that would be a bit longer. And the really in-depth videos are linked down below in the description. So you can see there, ENFP, extroverted type, all of the extroverted functions are on the top row, the externalities row. All the introverted functions are on the bottom row. You'll see that the shadow functions are shadowed out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the arrangement of the whole model, and we're just going to do it one at a time. So you have energy going across. Right. Let's move that there. So we've got the social mission block. So this works together, and you'll see how it works together in a moment. A way of understanding how it works together, especially in ENFP, is to think of David Keirsey's name for the ENFP, the champion. And they use their extroverted feeling, their emotional expressiveness. So what if you see the channel Blake Silvertooth, you'll see an expressive ENFP. If you see RGS on this channel, you will see an expressive ENFP. If you see Carol Linden, you'll see an expressive ENFP. So you see here, so we're going to look at the management, and then I'll go over to the other one, because this is the bit, this bit isn't in the actual profile, because it has the bullet points relevant to extroverted intuition in that one. So here, dominant function, it sets the goal definition. So the goal definition for ENFP is going to be to, as Carl Jung sort of said, just paraphrasing, that they're sort of led by their nose of intuition, seek out opportunities, explore. But not just that, but that is a big tendency. And it also fits their extroverted perceiving temperament. Now, so you can see on screen, I'm just going to read through this and then get to it. So there's not too much explanation. It's meant to be a peanut shell. Goal definition: step in any self-regulatory activity along with implementation, output, and input. 1. Government of the psyche, in charge of setting goals and making decisions. So the lead function, the management function, the manager, sets goals and makes decisions. It's paired with the manipulative function, that is the inferior function, aka the suggestive function, and the Jung JBTI equivalent, because I like to say Young-Briggs type indicator, because, you know, I want to give Jung some love. Dominant function, compared with, this is the hero-heroine function in Model B. Dario Nardi information. High EEG activity in regions correlated with the Jungian function in this position. Also related to function-specific macro states, i.e. whole neocortex EEG states. See page 43 in Neuroscience of Personality by Dario Nardi. And then there's a playlist of Dario videos on my channel. So now, so it sets the agenda. That's the dominant position. And now we're going to go to the profile. And then I'll explain the context of the position. So the context of the position is that it's an externalities row. In Dario Nardi's book, 8 Keys to Self-Leadership, it's said that introverts report moderate comfort with all of their introverted functions. And so in the case with extroverts, they're pretty much, they're okay with all their extroverted functions. I mean, most extroverts are okay with extroverted sensor. You know, they can cope well under stress. So as you see here, externalities, I'll go through this. So this is all of the positions across 1, 2, 3, 4. Externalities quartet activated by external stimulation of the function in the launcher position. So that that actually starts first. The launcher position for ENFP is TE. We'll get to that later. The title externalities indicates that this functional circuit is directed outwards on society. The externalities group takes precedence whenever the society is involved. Therefore, we placed it above internalities because when it comes to survival and development, Socion is of greater importance than a single type. Indicated by down arrows, top arrows suppress lower functions, but on its territory, the bottom functions are free from the control of the upper functions. Analogy, ride a horse. If you want more of an explanation on that, watch those specific videos that are 2 hours each. So, maximum energy for this. So it's like the dominant and the auxiliary function can be overindulged. So endowed with excess capacity, it consumes the lion's share of the psyche's energy. The more powerful the first function, the more distance the communicative field covers. Or in other words, the dominant function is very noticeable. And it communicates. It comes across. The NE in any DOMs is more noticeable than in other NPs. So now we're going to get to the, oh yes, social mission, these two working together. Mission to contribute to Socion, Socion, I.E.E. society, showing their specialization. So that would be sort of correspond with Keirsey's role variants. Although what you get with Keirsey is type-related preferences and role-related behavior. Right then, so management NE, and I'll get on to the creative after I've done this. So NE is defined there. I know it's small to hard to see, but it says, this is the short definition in School of Humanitarian Socionica, manifests in taking chances and defying convention. Number 1, sharp-eyed, perfectly sees the motives that drive other people, their secret desires and needs. 2, gets attracted to talented and unusual people. 3, capable of encouraging and infusing hope into a person. 4, advises on finding a way out of complicated situations in life. 5, takes interest in alternative opinions, penetrates into where new and unusual events take place. 6, searches for an occupation to his liking, constantly changes his interests. And if you're watching on a desktop, you might be thinking, why is he reading it out? Well, it's for the mobile viewers. So, Dr. G defining the function. If you want more information on this, watch the big video on it, on the management function. It'll be in the playlist listed below. It's with Carol Linden. Dr. G defining NE plus for all right spinning types and NE minus for all left spinning types. We've done a hangout on this on left and right spinners and the charges hangout. NE plus, intuition of perspectives, searching for the new, exploring, inventing, taking risks, trying to be original, demonstrating ability. Such is the NE plus of I.E.E., that is the ENTP. NE minus, intuition of alternatives, setting yourself apart, finding ways to avoid boredom, turning the commonplace upside down, noticing the hidden side of things. That's what an ENFP is good at. Right, so that's that function done. That position done, rather. And that function. The function in that position. Now we're going to go back to the other one to explain the creative function. And again, it helps to implement the... So if you think about ESFP, they're emotionally expressive people, and they use FE. And just like ENFP, if you're going to champion a cause, then you have to use charisma in order to achieve that goal. So it's used as a tool. So implementation. So one is a source of ends. The value functions are a source of ends. All those in the traditional JBTI stack are sort of ends. This is a means function of achieving that end. So execution of decisions made at stage one, or this one, management. The function implements or creates. The function is flexible and unconventional, which is also associated with creativity. This is also paired with a break function. We'll come on to that later. Beeb equivalent, which stroke senex, shadow function. This is about what is done rather than what is thought and or said. Thus, high EEG activity is not necessarily predicted for this function. However, ISTJ, SITE, ENTP, INFJ, NIFX, ISTP, TISE, ISFP, FISE, and INFP, FINX all show higher EEG activity for this creative function than for the auxiliary function. Other types show more auxiliary activity. And then I've written a little bit there about the sensory introverts. I'll just go through that quickly. NB, ISTJ, ISTP, and ISFP do not have functionally equivalent types in humanitarian socionica. ISTJ is more like LSI than SLI. SLI is like the ISTP, but with some significant ISTJ qualities. ESI, it's also like an ISTP that's an E9. ESI is a type unto itself. It is arguably like a social instinct Enneagram type 6 ISFJ, but with strong conservative, security-focused moral crusader traits. Look up Mary Whitehouse on the National Viewers and Listeners Association, rather. Hence, Dr. G calls ESI guardian. To imagine what the ESI is like, ask yourself, what would the direct opposite of a morally relativistic ENTP be like? So, creative function. It works. It's a shadow function. To the B people, they know this is the sixth function. This is a powerful unconscious function. So let's see how it works in ENFP. So it's going to be FE. Ethics of emotions, their source of expressivity. How they can get their ideas across, express them in a way where they come across as more charismatic than ENFP. Sorry, ENTP. Right, so FE defined. You'd have to trust me on this one because it's very small. A function that shapes demonstrative and expressive behavior, or rather demonstrative. Really, that should be indented up there. Sorry about that. Open and amicable in communication. Wins the trust of others with his sincerity and personal interest. Skillfully makes compliments. Keeps up interest to the subject. Gets offended after not receiving the emotional feedback. Strives to manage the feelings of others and to influence their choice. Creates a network of various contacts. For people he likes, he can do more than was expected of him. Now, some of those are a little bit obscure, and we went through them in a hangout with Carol Linden, the second one on FE, Creative FE. That's in the playlist below. Right, okay, just something about on the definition of the functions. This is a little quirk, and this is going to be something that's mentioned in that hangout too. The stronger the function is, the more both sides of it can be used. Ethics of dramatic emotions. This is like the FE of, say, imagine like Enneagram type 4, dramatic emotions. Being angry, indignant, dramatizing events, ridiculing others, escalating conflicts emotionally. That's the way of ENFJ. Of course, ENFJ can also use this other side. Ethics of positive emotions, being happy, expressing enthusiasm, being friendly and open with people. That's the way ESFJ shares the joy of living. So, now we're going to go on to the next one. I want to explain the position and the fact that it's in the social adaptation block. So when those two functions, so when you've got a task and you can't use these two, then you've got to use these other positions. So we got here social adaptation block. Oh, I should have said there before for the creative function. Function receives as much energy as is needed to solve challenges. The more complex the task, the more energy at its disposal. Right, role function. Minimum energy and can only pretty much do simple tasks. This can also be trained up, this function. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this block by block rather than keep going back and forth. So I'm going to do this as a whole. So social adaptation block. The functions of this unit provide stability in society. Without them, it is impossible to function normally if the mission is not performed for any reason. So the thing is, so you get given a task, and if you can't do it with these, then you can do it with these, or try to do it with these. So ENFP can get very good with the TE. They can be remarkably resourceful for as long as that they can concentrate. So I suppose if they run a business that they're passionate about, maybe people-related business, say Carol, with her business, Carol Effective with People, so the two things go together. So you've got an NF humanitarian interest combined with the business. So the motivation is there. So the minimum energy for the role function. Function is at minimum for the solution of the corresponding task level energy consumption. Thus it is able to regularly solve repetitive simple tasks. That means that the energy just about matches what is necessary to solve the problem. So role function. This function can be trained up. The function that is trained the way an athlete is trained by a coach or an actor is rehearsing his part, hence the usual name role function. Just like an athlete needs to keep training to maintain muscle mass, so the person needs to keep training this function or it will lose effectiveness. E.g., the LII needs to keep monitoring their own behavior to stop going into bad habits such as interrupter. In a dual relationship, the INTP's role FI is trained by the ESFJ's control FI. This is paired with position 8, i.e. the control function. That's in the other title. To find out more about that, watch the video. Yes, this is compared with the demon/daemon function in Model Beeb. And I'm also going to explain the launcher as well, because we're going to go through both. I'm doing it one by one. It's a little bit too much switching back and forth. Pessimum. And then we'll go through it. Pessimum energy. So it has the least amount of energy, the launcher function, but it's very, very sensitive. Has insufficient power to solve complex or repetitive tasks. It is unable to work for a large load. Its purpose is only to start a new circuit of mental activity. Position 4 activates 1 and 8 activates 5. Right, launcher. Input, i.e. data collection. The function in this position is triggered from the outside, thus it is referred to as launcher. It is the most sensitive and it is about new data input or collecting the feedback. Because it is very sensitive, the function in this position is chronologically first, i.e. it launches the new round of mental activity. Paired with the position number 5, i.e. demonstrative, MBTI equivalent tertiary, Model B of equivalent, Hua, Huella. Model A. Model 8 is mobilizing, aka hidden agenda. Right, now we're going to go to that block. I think I might rename this coconut shell because I think the peanut shell shouldn't even refer to the explanation. It should just be the boulder's brass. So I'll probably end up calling this the coconut shell because it'll end up being longer than I had hoped. So because really, I think in a peanut shell, I'd just stick with the one graphic rather than going back and forth. I can see this lasting a while. What? That's a long time. Right, so I'll read through this. Role SE. Right then. Control SE. Output, i.e. result presentation. Right. SE minus. Again, we've got there, it's in grey, shadow function. SHS defined, responsible for extroverted sensing defined, responsible for stimulation, aggression build-up and release. Right. Braces up and acts more decisively in extreme situations. So in extreme situations, they can use the extroverted sensing, the power sensing. Number 2, harshly, sometimes even rudely fights off rebukes and attempts to subordinate him. When having to compete, he takes pains to make himself do what is objectively necessary to do. 4, not good at comparing what is desired with what is real. Tries to achieve the results with a bounce, so in one go. 5, having taken the initiative, strives to find people that will lead the activities without his participation. As it says here, I'm not going to zoom it in. Power sensing of resistance, SE+, non-compliance, forming alliances against a stronger enemy, being assertive about their demands and protecting their interests. Such is the power sensing, or rather, such is the FE+ of ESFP, who knows how to maneuver between more powerful figures. SE minus, power sensing of subordination, playing on other soft spots, having them depend on you, building a hierarchy. This is the way ESTP leads his crew. The plus sign indicates maximizing positive manifestations of the function. The minus sign indicates minimizing the negative. The sign tells us the baseline state of the function from which it will deviate from time to time, but after a while it goes back to normal. Launcher position, i.e. data collection, TE+, SHSTE defined, the function that shows us active, obstinate, enduring behavior. 1, he is guided by down-to-earth reasons. 2, he is motivated by a matter that is not only interesting but also profitable. 3, expects quick results from experimental projects, otherwise switches to a different direction. 4, in complicated financial situations, invents various and sometimes even venturesome solution methods. 5, takes up critical and even dead-end affairs if gets access to the necessary resources. Right, so it's not a very powerful function. They've got a lot of like ambition in this area. And it's almost like the eyes are bigger than your belly function, where you're really enthusiastic, but when it comes down to brass tacks and you're doing it, it's like the energy just goes. Number 6, so this is new. And this is in this is new. If you give IEE the resources, she will find many ways to spend it. Note from Lena A, translator. This is about dead end. I believe this means the following. When IEE faces a problem which might have almost no chance of completion, however, IEE sees that there are the resources, most of all of material character, he will try to complete the task anyway. Those are the available material resources that activate the IEE to the extent that he can take up the task that might not even be successful. Right. IEE equals ENFP. Compare Linda Behrens' Discoverer Advocate and Keirsey's Champion. Right, so we're going to go into the bottom left one, and I need to explain that in the other graphic. Yeah, depending on how long this is, I might have to rename it Coconut Shell. I've already said that. So, internalities. So again, here you've got maximum energy, like more than is actually needed, and optimum energy. Self-affirmation block. Individual dies. This block dominates at close range territory. Right. And you can see some promotion there. Internalities. At close psychological distance, functions included in the bottom row are called internalities. which means they are aimed at its territory. When working externally, internalization is suppressed and muted via the vertical supervision one-way inhibition. The function in the first position constrains the function in the fifth, the second constrains the sixth, the third constrains the seventh, and the fourth constrains the eighth. For more information on this, see video 5 in the ENFP Model G series. So, information about the demonstrative position. Is the strongest position at close range. According to it, man is asserting itself. At the same time, is a signal for attracting your jewel. Position used to trigger others' activity. Usual name of the demonstrative. So stimulates the launch of position of this type's jewel. E.g., ACIE, that's ISFJ, becomes active when he knows the rules or is given a good explanation, and he will try to get others into action with his display of emotion. 3. The Jungian equivalent is auxiliary. Beebe equivalent, good parent. Dario, high EEG activity, like position 1, but not quite as strong. People have most comfort for positions 1 and 5. Manipulative, aka the inferior function. So as you'll notice here, the energy is quite strong, but its use is situational. So the person has to be on their territory. So for example, when I'm in Hangouts, I'm quite expressive, but I'm on my territory of talking about things that I'm interested in. When not on that territory, I am far less expressive. Function that is managed or governed from the outside. It is called manipulative because it is easily manipulated. Example, ISFJ feels responsible for managing comfort and well-being of others, while being easily manipulated by exciting ideas and novelty. Jung equivalent, inferior. Beebe equivalent, animus, the soul image. Model 8 is equivalent, suggestive function. Dario Nardi. Tandem use with function in management position, confirmed on page 194 of his functions book, 8 Keys to Self-Leadership. Book endorsed by Victor Gulenko. See the video Socionics VG number 13. Actually, that's been renamed as Victor Gulenko number 13 on the Ben Vaserlan YouTube channel. Now we're going to look at the functions in those positions. So I just need to do this, and it should go there. There we go. All right, now I can zoom in. I wonder how long this video will be. All right, I don't know if it's a peanut shell. Anyway, I've mentioned that already. Demonstrative. FI, SHS defined, is a function that shapes modest and empathetic behavior. Empathetic, I'll agree with. FI seems to be very much associated with rapport. And so all of the FPs are informing in Keirsey. So they're all about rapport up to a certain value-laden threshold. Right. Attracts attention of other people, however, stops their attempts to move to a shorter distance with him. Demonstrates disappointment and abruptly distances himself demonstrates disappointment and abruptly distances himself from acquaintances he got tired of. A little bit EP there. Will not tolerate the situation when his personal distance is not respected. Capable of finding a way to demonstrate his resentment or condemnation. Despite the free behavior, he has firm moral borderlines. So if you're looking at this, guys, take this on board when dealing with an ENFP woman. Don't get too pushy. Look at number 1 there. Right. And beware of number 3 as well. Right. Manipulative SI plus. Oh, I've got to say something about the function. FI plus. Forgiving people. Giving them benefit of the doubt. Grieving and comforting those struck by grief. Being kind to others. This is the ethic of EII. That's INFP. Relationship ethics of disapproval. Keeping others at a distance, being suspicious, holding a grudge, such is the ethics of ESI. And remember, that's the ethics of ESI when the ESI is not using the other kind of FI, because they can switch in between both kinds. Otherwise, it would be super stereotypical. They can switch. SI plus, SHS defined, School of Humanitarian Socionica, manipulative. This is the same as the MBTI inferior function. Responsible for practical care of bodily needs such as rest, nourishment, clothing, shelter, etc. When capricious or ill, strives for receiving, care not, only in words. I'll say it again. When capricious or ill, strives for receiving care, not only in words, but also in actions. Yeah, this was translated by Helena, and so some words are rather obscure. You can look up capricious. Right, number 2. When feeling well, he will succeed in organizing comfort in his own territory with little effort. 3. Quickly finds a substitute for a lacking object he needs. 4. Takes care of health with simple methods. Knows how to give himself a treat, enjoy the current situation. Most of all, he is affected by situations where the useful is combined with the pleasant. So not totally useless with SI. For right spinners, sensation of discomfort, SI minus. Treatment of a malady or resolution of everyday discomforts, such is the -S of SEI, that's ISFJ, which is good at avoiding extremes. Now, there's a nice little link up there, because ISFJ in Keirsey is the protector, and they are very good at giving care, and not just as a stereotypical nurse, but also as a general practitioner, because it's about minimizing discomfort. For left spinners, sensation of comfort. We did a spinners hangout. I think it's VG number 21. Sensation of comfort. Adjusting the environment to make yourself as comfortable as you can. Make your territory autonomous. Such is the +S of SI. Right, I will now go to the other block, the remaining block, the inflation block. Now, did I add the thing that Dr. G put in there? Yes, I added it. I added it to this graphic. Dr. G really did put that bit in quotation marks. Well, via Google Translate. And I don't think that Google Translate is secretly an Austrian school AI bot that's going to work in, you know, our ideology. He really did write that. So, swelling of information in the absence of real energy. It's just where all of these things come up, and it just builds and builds and builds and builds on them. And I'll go and I'll explain what those functions are in a moment. Swelling of information in the absence of real energy. From the point of view of society, the person wastes energy in vain. Overvoltage on this block leads to the collapse of the mind, just as monetary inflation leads to the collapse of the economy. And I put there, increase in supply of money and or credit. See Peter Schiff, overvoltage, overexertion. Now, you might say it's down to growth. You might be a Keynesian. Okay. Well, every time there has been hyperinflation, you look what the central bank did. They increased the money supply. Right. And the first time they did it was in China, when they had the first paper currency. All right. So we have the break function. So here's a little thing. Usually the break function is experienced as the weakest, but the control function has the lowest amount of energy, but it has a very high amount of information. So, and I'll get over to that in a moment, where the ENFP actually does have a lot of information for NI stuff. They can see how things are going to develop and pan out. But you see, the thing is, they can't focus on one thing. because they see all of these opportunities that then they're very appreciative of the opportunity cost of focusing on one goal. And also the NI thing of like chart the course to a goal is sort of at odds with the EP Gulenko temperament. Break function. Now this is a little bit obscure. The function that is created, the one a person should create almost from scratch in order to survive. The usual name of this function is break, as its activation tends to slow people down and drain them. You sort of assume it's going to happen. So I suppose in my case, LII, TINX, INTP, that once you've sort of like worked out what's going to happen in the future, and you've got your plan. I know I'm a bit of an Enneagram Type 7 resembler as well, where you've got the plan. Okay, that's the target, that's the plan, and we sort of assume that, well, it's just going to gradually going to get there, but we actually have to put the effort in, the volitional sensor, the SE action. Right, so example, SEI, that's Keirsey ISFJ, creates new relationships by bringing people together and expects the business logic part to be custom made for his activities so he won't overexert himself. So for example, so what we're saying there is the ISFJ will bring people together and it's like, there you go, do it, do the business thing. I brought you together. It's not up to me to do it. All right. Because TE is very weak in ISFJ. Model Beeb archetype, trickster, a shadow. Yes, a shadow function. Model 8 is equivalent, vulnerable function, aka place of least resistance, Dario Nardi. So he agreed about this one. Least preferred function along with function in role position, because the preference for functions in management and demonstrative positions which have maximum energy. Right. So because, we'll go over that when we get to their functions. Control position. Loads of information, not energy for it. The coach's function is to drill others rather than perform by himself. So it's actually good to like give the information to other people. So ENFP will probably tell loads of people about how things are going, so they can give good advice about how events might unfold. The coach, his function is to drill others rather than perform by himself. It is commonly referred to as control function as it keeps monitoring the surroundings. E.g., ISFJ trains his ability to predict events as well as the sense of time. He looks out for all the ways he can be violated and has to protect his territory. Right, so the idea possibly there is an ISFJ SEI in a relationship with ENTP. The ENTP would provide NI insights about intuition of time and developments that the ENTP won't follow themselves, because again it would have opportunity cost of concentrating on fewer things, but that information can be used to train up the role function of ISFJ. It's just that information can be used. Least energy but biggest information. The action, so this action is all talk and no walk. The actions for which the person is closely monitoring, it is very sensitive about it. The type thinks a lot. So we INTP resemblers are thinking about the TE stuff. And Keirsey wrote, if an organization is to get their most out of an INTP architect, they should provide them with an efficient support staff to capture their ideas as they emerge and before they lose interest and move on to another idea. Ignoring function. A person cannot, and then here's my bit, a person cannot be a sociotype individuation pattern. They can only resemble one. I refer to myself as a TINX resembler because I only resemble the TINX construct. It's only a pattern. It's only a model. It's a very good model, but it's only a model. So now we're going to get to the functions. I wonder how long I've been on this. All right, so Inflation avoidance block. Yeah, I explained that. Pessimum energy. When I saw that word pessimum, I thought, hang on a minute, that's fantastic. That must mean less than minimum. Break function, Ti minus. Right. So, you might be thinking, Ben, okay, I can see our ESFPs are a TI break. But ENFPs, they can talk with abstractions and things. I think what it comes down to is that if you have a discussion with them about, an example would be Austrian school economics, where if you give them the TI of that, they won't take it in and understand it if it contradicts the FI. But also, it all depends on how much education they have had in the TI realm. It might also come across as not wanting to do the subjective thinking, always wanting to do the objective thinking. So the objective thinking is either empirical or what most people agree on. So for instance, even Kant thought that Newtonian physics was absolutely bang on true. Now we sort of go, mostly true. Right, so TI minus, for more explanation of this, we did a video on it. TI minus gets extremely tired by mundanity and drab existence. Cannot handle finicky work. Or finicky work. It should be finicky, I think. He isn't good at monitoring the details, numbers, paragraphs. He will not go deeply into detailed reports or instructions voluntarily. Does not respect formal subordination. His own outlines and designs complicate the situation rather than help to solve it. Does not always find convincing reasoning for his viewpoint. Does not draw logical conclusions out of his negative experience. Right, TI minus. I'm going to show you on screen because this is where Dr. G has some interesting views on classical socionics versus his own. Logic of uniform structures. This is TI plus. Securing the structure that has proven to work, while considering all other structures incorrect. Rationalizing one and only one right decision. Stubbornly following your principles. Thorough reading of directions or drafts. Linear, either or way of thinking. That is the logic of information socionics, as well as the structural logic of LSI. So what he's saying is that Model A and classical socionics is a little bit stubborn. Whereas his socionics, TI minus, a logic of fractal structure. By fractal, I mean being fragmented and scalable. That's the kind of logic that can see order in chaos and allows describing the same object in multiple ways. The logic of contradictions and paradoxes, multidimensional, polymorphic logic, relaxed and or alternatives. This is the logic of energy synergistic socionics, i.e. Victor School of Humanitarian Socionica, and the kind of structural logic characteristic of LII. That's Victor's type pattern, my type pattern. There we go. So we move on to this one. I think this probably is a coconut shell. It's more than a... I don't know how I would do a peanut shell. I think I would just have to do the bullet points. Right, okay, we'll do the function, and then we'll do the definition, and then I'll do the bullet points. Intuition of the past, then I minus. Okay, so this is like INTJ, like the critic, the negativist, kind of looking for things going wrong. Keirsey would say, if you were trying to find a job that fitted the INTJ's, the ILI's cognitive abilities, the it would be like contingency planning. Thinking of the past, remembering past errors and trying to prevent them from happening again. Extrapolating, looking for signs of the past repeating itself. That's how ILI operates. So it's minimizing the negative. NI plus, and remember, it's going to switch as well, but there's going to be a bias towards NI minus in ILI. This is IEI. IEI will sort of show it like this. Intuition of the future, wondering about the future, believing in a good outcome, being hopeful, holding the vision, bringing future into the present. That's how Ni plus of an IEI resembler works, an NeFx. Now we're going to go to this. And if you want more information on this, video 8 of 8 in the ENFP series in the playlist linked in the description. Ni plus, or rather Ni, manifests in contemplative wait-and-see behavior. Bullet points for ENFP. Keeps track of the vision of future others have. Right, so it remembers what other people say about the future. Finds it hard to keep to a time schedule. Often comes late. Sometimes comes too early. At the same time, he is irritated when others are late. So that's an example of walk and talk, where you know when someone's late, and the ENFP will probably know exactly how long late you're. You're 19 minutes and 20 seconds late. What about you? Right. Tries to build far-reaching plans and foresee the future. However, often changes or puts aside his dreams and hopes. That's a little bit, you can think of some characteristics there of E7. He isn't good at planning an event in terms of time. Goes wrong with deadlines. Prone to jumping the gun, although he gives timely information about the emerging trends to others. There we go. Oh yeah, look, there is more. There is more in this. Put it. Go up. There is more information. These are, if you go right to the top of the screen, you will see a link on the home screen. Free preview of my stage play. Here are some lines. There, you can zoom in on that. So I'll just put one line out. Wilma to Ben. And another thing, you wearing 2 pairs of underpants at the same time does not speak well of your confidence level. The US is not a 2 pairs of underpants type of country. We're bold. Lines from my rom-com stage play. Right then, I suggest with all of these videos that please use the search box if all of these playlists are not to your liking. Here, the type pattern pros. So you can see those ones there, but there's more than those. So if you click on that little arrow, you'll see more. And if you actually click on this, then you'll get the whole shebang. There we go. And it will load it like this, where you can see them all. Because you clicked on that line. It doesn't really show up as it's one of these hidden features. This is actually called a shelf, and it will say that in the URL. So we've got Michael Pierce there, Leon Sound, Eamon Gray. Right, back here. Upcoming events. Socionics shelf. If you want to see them all, I suggest you click this line. You can click on this, but sometimes you don't see them all. Click that line, then you'll see all these. There we go. Gulenko, Model G, Intertype Relations, Dr. G's Romance Styles, Going Through It with Son of Keirsey, the computer scientist. He worked for DARPA, don't ask him about it. Testian Grigori Ranin's Ranin dichotomies. Socionics Miscellaneous, there's that Quadras hangout. The Salty 160, I think that's come back. Socionics International Hangouts. This guy, ENFP, he was been talking about playing devil's advocate, about, you know, pretending to have opinions he didn't, so that he can win an argument with from different positions. I'm just training up my skills. That was his excuse. Right, Victor's diagnosed their type already, and then right, what we got here? What's this third one here? All right, this is the shelf, and you get there by clicking on this. You scroll down. There you go, past there. Then you got here where it says Keirsey role variants, Jungian individuation patterns. I think that's number 3. And then look what we have. That's not the right one, Ben. This is it. And of course, you do this after you've clicked on that one there. There we go, strategic contender. You know what that is. Look at that, NITX. NETX with Joe. There she is. Just one video with her on this boat one in a coconut shell. INTP. Socionics I.E.E. Keirsey Jr.'s in that 4-hour video. There's only 3 of them on there, but the whole thing, well, but the whole thing has been covered in the Hitler one. Hitler's best fit socionics type. INFJ. NeFx done a lot. Again, ENFP done a lot. Link below. INFP done a lot. ESFP 8 videos with Jeff and with the Keirsey profile. SL done with Victor. EEG in depth 1 video but super in depth over 3 hours there. 3 hours 20 minutes 45 seconds. ESTJ good for the nuances. This one. It is one of these idiosyncratic socionics types that doesn't have a proper corresponding type in the West. So RS, that's why I've not put anything in there. ISFX, it's just an introverted SF. SIFX, right, that does correspond to ISFJ. And then functions. TE, FE, SE, NE, there, functions. Right, what's this other one? These are all of the Enneagram ones. So you got all the Enneagram types there. Top, Catherine. Tom Condon. Right at the bottom, after we go through all of the types. Enneagram in general, 23 videos, and it's got all the Catherine videos in that. Right, so we go there. Victor Hangouts. The Socionics shelf. Click that line. It really should have a line under it, on that line of text to show that it's clickable. You click that, then you get all of the other playlists. Same with that if you click that. This you don't need to do it because there's only 5 playlists on this shelf. That's why there's not that little arrow there. Enneagram, I've shown you that shelf. Now, and then we've got miscellaneous things there. If you want to see the rest, again, you can click there. Rather click there and click there. Again, A to Z of guests. This will be the climax. So these are all the guests on the channel. Right. So you might be of one of these types. Right. So Alf Sanger. Amber. Anna. Anthony. Professional counselor. INFJ with lots of ESTP qualities. Ash. Me on another channel. Bradley. INTP resembler. Although he would say INFP and MBTI. LII and Socionica. You must have it both ways. Carol Linden. There we go. She's also in the top row. Karina. Chris Montoya. Crystal. As in Lady Lullaby INFJ. Damon Gray. Dario Nardi. David Mark Keirsey. Elena ESFJ resembler. Emily Daniel. Super good people skills through working in a children's home and other things. A good example of creative use of extroverted feeling in a type that does not value it in itself. It's used as a tool for other functions, or rather used as a tool for the motivations associated with the valued functions. Emily W. She has her own YouTube channel. Farah M. Farah D should be on there soon. On Friday. Haley G. Hannah. Holly, Imogen. You can see this on screen. Yelena. There she is, top left. One video. She should be in another one on Friday. There's Joe again. Jonathan, 71 videos. If you like Enneagram, here's your man. Julia, I didn't know she was in 2. Oh yeah, because of that short one. Catherine, Christian. Oh, I better go through these quickly. Michael Pierce. Yes. Millie. Huge ball of NE. Miley Noir. Hard to find her on YouTube. Arlena. R-Dub. Rachel. And then another Rachel. You can see there Senna. New Edition. Therain. INTJ Resembler. Wojtek Muller. Very clever guy. Right. So that is that. There we are. So bye-bye, folks. I bet this flipping peanut shell is now a coconut sized. Oh, I'll have to change the title. Right.